low. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to the NBA Daily. The New York Knicks are your 2026 NBA champs. I'm Dave DuFour here with Es Baraheni, who's in Toronto. Oh, we're dealing with some Wi-Fi issues, aren't we?
We are dealing with Wi-Fi issues, but it's okay. The New York Knicks are NBA champions. Look, we predicted Spurs in 6, so we were incredibly wrong in doubting this Knicks team.
Were we? Hang on. Not in doubting this Knicks team, but I think in believing in the Spurs. And I don't necessarily think we were wrong. Like, if we could just jump right into it, because the Spurs held a lead in the first 4 games of the series in the last 2 minutes. We all just saw what happened tonight. The Spurs were in this. I mean, they led for the majority of the series. So
70%.
It is how you close.
They led for 70% of this series. I actually think that comes down to how incredible. This is like a marvel of a Knicks team. Like, genuinely one of the more, I don't want to say improbable, but just historic championship runs we've ever seen. I've been pulling up stats because I'm working on a video here for us at The Athletic, but obviously they break their 53-year drought. That's the longest drought ever broken. They had an average margin of victory of 14.9. That margin of victory is the most ever by an NBA champion. Their 13 straight wins, as we talked about, was the second longest playoff streak ever. There are so many historic numbers to throw out there with this Knicks team that it just comes down to this was an all-time run. And it's almost poetic. Like, you kind of needed it to be this all-time run for the Knicks to win a championship. And it happened. And we've gotten it. And now the New York Knicks, who for like 20 straight years were the laughing stocks of the NBA. For them to have turned it around in a massive way, built a contender, and now won a championship, it's a huge testament. How were the vibes in that arena tonight? Because it felt like it was a Knicks crowd.
It was a Knicks crowd. After the game, the Spurs fans cleared out, and about 65% of the stadium was still full of Knicks fans. And it was different. It was more like game 2 than game 1, as far as the number of Knicks fans that were here. It felt like a Knicks home game most of the time. You know, if you look down for a second to take a note and something good happened, you didn't know who it was happening for, but the Knicks fans were very loud. And honestly, like, the Spurs fans, especially down the stretch of this game, you could tell they were nervous. They had that great first quarter again. The Knicks scored 13 points in the first quarter somehow, and I don't think a single Spurs fan felt comfortable at any point in the game. And rightfully, because they blew another lead. The youth of this team, I think, showed itself in this series. But also, I think that the talent of this team showed itself in this series. You know, this is a Spurs team that's at least a year early, and they had a chance to win every single game in the series. We could have been talking about a Spurs sweep, legitimately. And or a Knicks sweep. This is one of the closest final series I can think of. And again, the Spurs just maybe a little too early. And this Knicks team, they play with desperation the entire time. They just know who they are. And down the stretch of games, they're able to close it out. Every single guy on the Knicks feels like you could trust them. Karl-Anthony Towns fouls out in this, and that could have potentially been a disaster for them. But they got great minutes out of Mitchell Robinson. Ariel Huck-Porty actually had a really great block at the rim.
Yeah.
Everyone just sort of contributed in different ways.
Everybody did contribute in different ways, but I would be remiss to not mention the fact that Jalen Brunson scored half of their points. He had 45 points in this game, undeniably his best finals game. The Brunson burner was on tonight, and he ended up scoring 45 points of what was the final total, 94 points for the New York Knicks. It's tied for the most points in a closeout game on the road since Michael Jordan in 1998. There are, 4 Finals MVPs to win and be 6'2" or shorter. It's Steph Curry, it's Isaiah Thomas, Zeke, it's Jalen Brunson, and it's Tony Parker. Like, that's the list. That's it.
Yeah.
In terms of small guys who have done it. And I think we saw in a game that is so ugly and was so ugly. Like, Game 5 was ugly. The shots weren't falling for either team. You saw a guy who, and we've talked about this before on the show, like, he can get buckets out of the mud. He can figure out things and just grind his way to baskets consistently, and he did it in the biggest game of his life. What did you see from Brunson? What did you see from just, like, his series in general? What were your thoughts on Jalen?
Well, in this series, he's kind of gotten slurts. He hasn't shot the ball well and come on late. But in this game, he hadn't really seen. He'd been eating, but not necessarily scoring efficiently like we're used to.
Yeah.
Spurs Wi-Fi needs an upgrade. I do believe.
Spurs Wi-Fi is killing us. It is. Shout out to Frost Bank Center. It seems like it's one of those things where even the vibe in the arena was so Knicks heavy that you could see, like, maybe it's the Knicks messing with the Wi-Fi right now. The amount of Knicks fans in Frost Bank Center is messing with our Wi-Fi in our show. It is what it is. It doesn't matter. Either way. Jalen Brunson, his ability to score in this game, he was one of the only reasons the Knicks, throughout this game, Dave, I don't know how you felt, but throughout this game, I kept looking at the score and I'm like, how are the Knicks only down 10? How are the Knicks only down 5? How are the Knicks leading this game? And
isn't that the story of the series, though, Es?
It really is the story of the series. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a lot of the Spurs not being able to finish them off. And in spite of, they went for the home run and they would try to go for the kill shot all the time. Although in this game, I don't think you could say that they did that. The Knicks really just chipped into the lead, and it was a solid comeback. It wasn't one of these miraculous ones. They just, every single time there was a 50-50 ball, it felt like they got a hand on it. They made a play. Josh Hart gets a huge offensive rebound down the stretch, and Brunson really, I just think you credit Brunson for the win. 45 points out of your 94. He hit every tough shot that you needed him to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible performance.
Yeah, it was genuinely, historic. In terms of closeout games, it's the third most anybody has scored in a closeout game. It's like Bob Pettit, Wilt Chamberlain, they had 50, but then it's Jalen Brunson and Michael Jordan. Like, that's the list. It's an incredible list to be a part of. And, hearing his post-game press conference, he did an interview with Inside the NBA, listening to that. Him and Rick Brunson, his dad, did the interview together. And it's just cool to hear a guy who so consistently is calm, and I think that was, it trickled down into the identity of the New York Knicks, how absolutely calm they were throughout this series, throughout their crazy comebacks. They had a resilience, they had a belief to what they were doing, and I honestly think that comes from the top down. It's the captain, it's Mr. Clutch. What he does in the fourth quarters is something I have maybe never seen before, in my life, at least. Like, of course, Michael Jordan, everybody will bring up MJ, and he actually tied MJ for most fourth quarter points in a closeout game tonight as well.
Wow.
More stats to throw out at you.
Becky Hammond's retired jersey is just here above me. to my left. And it was one of the first things I looked at as he was getting the MVP trophy. Shout out to Becky Hammond. Like, she's not necessarily wrong about this. Like, we don't see this often. But Jalen Brunson, I do believe, like, this is a championship player. This is a finals MVP. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the best players in the NBA. He's one of the best scorers I've ever seen. When you think about just the diverse shot profile, the fact that he can hit every single shot on the basketball court. This was an all-time performance from a guy that, we weren't even sure. Like, he wasn't the front runner for MVP coming into this game necessarily, because I think OG Anunoby maybe had a leg up. Brunson hadn't really had one of these types of performances. And then he turns it on, and it's when they needed it most, because they weren't getting much from anybody else. And again, Karl Anthony Towns fouls out with 2 points. You just did not get anything from Cat in the game. I don't know. I'm a little bit speechless, to be honest with you, from this performance.
Yeah, their second leading scorer was Mikal Bridges with 14 points on 10 shots. Like, offensive efficiency was few and far between for this Knicks team.
Yeah,
and you had Brunson completely have to carry it. He was unanimous Finals MVP. I think that was the right call. I agree with you that coming into this game, it was probably OG Anunoby had the leg up, but after this game, he cemented himself. And I guess let's be a little reactionary here. I'll ask you this. Because of how important Brunson is to New York, to the Knicks, the short king stuff with him winning Finals MVP and how rare of a group that puts him in, does this feel a little 2011 Dirk to you, where this changes his like all-time stat? I don't know where you would put Brunson
a title changes everything for everyone. A title has now changed Karl Anthony Towns' career. Right? Absolutely. It puts him maybe in the Hall of Fame eventually when he gets to that point. This is like, it is a game changer. And to be the best player on a title team means a lot. Whether it's a 2011 Mavs or not, we're going to have to see next year. Because if they come back and let's say they're doing this again, well, then I think it's a different thing. I've compared them a little bit to the 2004 Pistons, just because of how many of these guys have been. Like, you look around, and part of why they're so desperate when they're in these games, I believe, is that they're all in their second or third or fourth team. This is not a bunch of guys who, their best draft pick, the highest draft pick was Karl Anthony Towns, and he played, 15 minutes in the game, 16 minutes, and fouled out. This is a group of grinders, like NBA grinders. And a little bit of the Spurs issue, maybe from their youth, is that they took their foot off the gas when they would get these leads. And with the Knicks, they just never stopped coming. They never got down, even down 29 points. They just came back to it. And I have to credit that to the journeyman aspect of this roster. And even Mike Brown's a journeyman. This is a guy who's bounced around. He was fired twice after being named Coach of the Year. He was fired the next season. He went through those years with the Warriors as an assistant coach, won a title, and he's turned himself into a better coach in the last decade. I think we got a chance to see, I think, Mike Brown, the last two games especially, pushing the right buttons at the right times. He tried out Jose Alvarado in this game early just to see if there was some juice there. There wasn't. Yeah. He goes away from it. Again, Ariel Huck-Porty's playing minutes to try to buy time. Jeremy Sohan is out on the court in kind of crucial possessions that, because you're desperate and you've just got to figure this out. And it all worked out for Mike Brown. Again, a great coaching performance, really coached circles around Mitch Johnson, I would say. And Mitch, that's a whole nother conversation I think we got to have maybe in the summer, just like, where do the Spurs go from here after a loss like this?
We'll talk Spurs in a little bit, but I want to just keep going on the Knicks. I think, you mentioned 04 Pistons. That's a really cool comp that I hadn't thought about because of the journeyman aspect of all of these guys. Yeah. And, if you really think about it, Brunson is absolutely the best player for the Knicks. And, again, he deserves to win Finals MVP. He was sensational in this game. But they had to get something from everybody in this run. Karl Anthony Towns had to play the most complete basketball of his life for 2.5 months, both offensively and defensively. You could argue that through that win streak, he was their most consequential player in terms of them running the offense through him, the flex actions they were running.
What do you have, 3 triple-doubles in this run?
3 triple-doubles in that run. And honestly, through the first 2 games of this series where the Knicks went 2-0, it was Cat as the front runner for Finals MVP because of how he was dominating that Wemby matchup. So they got a little bit from that guy. They got, obviously, OG Anunoby combined for 61 points in Game 3 and Game 4, the game winner, the incredible comeback. You had moments where Josh Hart stepped up, the huge rebounds in Game 1 that helped them win that game.
He hit some big threes in this game, and a lot of them, they weren't in rhythm, sadly, because, he was passing up open looks and he hit some tough threes. But Landry Shamet had some big moments in this series for the Knicks. Again, I want to credit Mike Brown for pushing the right buttons at the right time. And also, he had a quick hook. I thought he did a good job. Like, hey, this isn't working. Deuce McBride minutes,
something else.
Not working. We're going to try something else. Not getting too hung up. And in particular, in comparison to the Spurs, I think that it stood out. The way that Mike Brown was willing to try out new lineup combinations. They ran a small ball lineup that essentially had Mikal Bridges at the 5 in this game, and just to buy him time. And these are the sort of things that I think coaches have to figure out on the fly, and including in a game on the fly, because who expects Karl-Anthony Towns to be in that sort of foul trouble? Again, incredible performance by the Knicks, just all around. I mean, I think you could point at each guy that was in the rotation, and you could come up with 2 or 3 winning plays they made. Mitchell Robinson pulls down that huge offensive rebound and gets rid of the ball before he gets fouled. That's a huge play, because if he goes to the line, they're up 2 and maybe he misses both, and Spurs get the rebound, and you never know what happens from there. So again, credit to the Knicks. This was a bunch of dudes that just refused to lose.
I want to zoom out to how the Knicks built this roster a little bit before we get to the Spurs.
Sure.
Because they
were chanting Leon Rose after the game. Okay. I've never seen anything like that in my life. They're chanting Leon Rose from the rafters in San Antonio. It's amazing.
In Leon they trust it's been a mantra for Knicks fans over the last couple of years, where it's like, this guy he knows what he's doing when it comes to building this roster. And you saw Josh Hart in the championship ceremony saying, "Forget these picks, forget these picks, F them picks," right? And I think that's really telling, because it does, and I don't say this in a mean way. It's sort of different to how teams are currently trying to build championship rosters.
Right.
What the Knicks are doing in terms of like throwing out picks, having this really high payroll. It's different from the Oklahoma City Thunder, obviously, or the San Antonio Spurs. And truthfully, the Knicks didn't build through the draft. Like, they built through betting on players. They built through betting on Jalen Brunson, signing him to a 4-year, $100 million deal, which, by the way, if you were to go to the articles when Jalen Brunson signed that contract, everybody was talking about it being an overpay. Everybody was talking about that this is an outrageous contract, and he is more than made up for that in terms of his talent. They signed Julius Randle to that around that same time.
Yeah.
Flipped Julius Randle for Karl-Anthony Towns to bring him on. They obviously signed Dante DiVincenzo. That was a big bet. He was included in that Karl-Anthony Towns trade. I think drafting, of course, R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, and flipping them, knowing the moment in time to flip those guys to get OG Anunoby at the right price, an incredible trade looking back now for the Knicks. Josh Hart, taking him from the Portland Trailblazers on a trade. And then the final piece to the puzzle for them was Mikal Bridges, was the gajillion picks that they used to trade for him. But it all works out. Like, this team building, I'm not saying that teams should try to replicate this, that franchises will have to go out and do this the same way that the Knicks did. It's not a copycat league in that sense, but it is very unique.
Yeah, easier said than done, right? You got to go steal the Knicks pro personnel department, right? You got to go get the guys
evaluation.
Yes. Right. Yeah, exactly. Go get the guys that know that learn about these guys behind the scenes and how they fit. I actually thought that was one of the things from the post game, from the trophy presentation, that stood out the most to me. I mean, I'm a basketball coach, so I'm a sucker for this stuff. But all the guys talked about the team and how everyone fit in the team, and that stuff matters. Like, team building matters. I think the Spurs team is a team that's built really well. They're just young. They're not ready yet. Yeah. The Knicks, it's their time, and putting the three guys from Villanova together, and what that did for them. I mean, again, they won another title in San Antonio.
The power of friendship, truly, honestly, that was the Knicks way. It's like building a culture of guys who like playing with each other. And it didn't, honestly, it didn't look perfect throughout the regular season. They won 53 games,
Okay, and we were talking about changing the starting lineup.
Yeah.
At the end of March, it's too late. Is it too late for Mike Brown to try out Deuce McBride in the starting lineup? And, some of this is going to be hindsight being 2020, and we'll just say, oh, look, it worked out. It was great. We were all wrong. I don't know if we were wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were wrong. I think that maybe just lightning struck for them at the right moment. And when you've got the sort of chemistry that they have, and then one of the best shot makers in the NBA, come playoff time, I mean, this defense was incredible. I mean, there's so many parts of this team that just spell championship that I think we could have missed along the way. But we saw it in the playoffs. Like, we saw the championship level Knicks start to build at the end of that Hawks series when they rolled through, the Cavs. I think that we got a chance to see what happens when a team chemistry-wise actually comes together.
Our own producer Andrew Schlecht is saying you were wrong, by the way. In that,
I was wrong. Yeah. See, this is the beauty. Okay, here's the beauty of basketball. No matter how much you know.
Exactly.
No, it's basketball, man. Like, if I could tell you everything that was going to happen, if I could tell you how every player was going to react, if I could predict the future, it's no fun. You don't know that who's going to be a choker and who's not. The lights got bright, I think, at moments for this Spurs team. Missed shots down the stretch, missed free throws, poor decision making. I think we're gonna spend a lot of time this summer talking about De'Aaron Fox and what happens, going forward with the Spurs, because it feels like they've got a little bit of a quarterback controversy brewing with Dylan Harper, who was he not their best player in this final game of their season? I mean, for a rookie to be able to do that kind of stuff, it's definitely going to push conversation. But the Knicks, they had all this stuff sorted out before the playoffs started. They knew who their man. They know Jalen Brunson is the man for us. And everyone else's job is to make sure he can do the stuff that he does. But on the defensive end, they take care of him. And on the offensive end, they follow his lead. And that won them a championship.
Yeah, and look, zooming back to or kind of pressing rewind to last year when Tibbs got fired.
Yeah.
And there was a genuine identity crisis with this Knicks team where it's like, do they have enough in this league, in this modern NBA, to win a championship? Is it the coach? Is it the players? Is it the roster construction? And I think, honestly, winning a championship proves that it wasn't Tibbs' fault, but they were able to execute in a way, find a new identity.
Sure.
And Mike Brown was able to push the right buttons to get them over the hump. The other aspect of
this, he was Tom Thibodeau was a little bit of a limiter for them, and a lot of that was lack of offensive creativity. It was, hey, Jalen, go make something happen for us. And, we've seen this. Tom Thibodeau teams are like that. Derrick Rose wins an MVP because that's what Tom Thibodeau had him do. And it works to a certain degree. It wins you a lot of games in the regular season, and you can grind these guys to dust and win a bunch of basketball games in the regular season. It just doesn't translate to the playoffs. And again, back to the evolution of Mike Brown, who has learned how to coach playoff basketball. He's making the right adjustments. He's pushing the right buttons.
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah.
That was incredible, man. That was like the most bizarre. He did it for like 30 seconds.
It happened for a very long time. And it happened twice. I don't know. I think Mike Brown was just in the moment and didn't really know what to say.
Yeah.
It was great.
Okay, there's two YouTube comments that I want to bring up. One from Academic Athletic Freak, who says Dylan Jones has 2 rings now in 2 years, one with the Thunder and one with the Knicks. I actually have a Dylan Jones story here. I was talking to someone that works with us at The Athletic, and I'm not going to spoil who it was because they're working on something around this. But Mike Brown takes coaching advice from Dylan Jones. He actually talks to Dylan Jones about strategy. And so I wonder if we're looking at like a future head coach, I swear to God, Dylan
Really?
Jones might be a future head coach. Like
This
he
is
has what
interesting.
it takes. So you will hear about this at some point in time from people much smarter and more in the know than me, talking about Dylan Jones.
Sitting in on these Mike Brown press conferences has honestly taught me a lot about Mike Brown. And he does seem like a guy who's willing to learn from just about anybody. You know, what he learned under Steve Kerr, he talked about this, just being able to delegate, hand things off. It made him a better coach. You get to sit and be more CEO, think big picture. And I think he already did that. I mean, he set him up as well as you could for the playoffs. And then when it came time to say, hey, we're scrapping everything we did, they did it. And then they scrapped their pivot when it didn't work. And, again, every single time in this series where the Knicks could have quit, I'm going to credit Mike Brown for picking them up and keeping them going. This team, they've got some chemistry that I think is very, very difficult to replicate. I don't know if you could build a team like this anywhere else. Other than what they've been able to do with this roster. Truly fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite runs that we've seen. Just from a Knicks perspective, obviously it's incredible that New York gets to celebrate here. We have a lot of, at least I have a lot of Knicks fans in my life. My wife has become a Knicks fan over the last couple of months.
Andrew Schlecht has become a Knicks fan in the last few weeks.
Well, okay, this is actually a perfect segue because I think this series and this playoff run has, in a lot of people's eyes, turned Victor Wembanyama into the villain. And this happens to a lot of the best basketball players ever, that they turn into the guy to root against. It happened to LeBron James. It will happen to, honestly, it's happened to a lot of NBA players. It's kind of happening to Victor Wembanyama now, where in this game 5, he steps under Jalen Brunson. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, he's going to get suspended. He can get the foul call, et cetera, et cetera.
Which was never going to happen.
He was never going to get suspended. I'm sorry to break it to you guys.
Also, Jalen Brunson extends his foot on that shot. I mean,
we could debate that.
If you go to the film, like he's it's not a natural shooting motion.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that there is now a bit of a target on the Spurs. There's expectation, of course, on the Spurs. There's a target on their back. There's a target on Wemby's back. There was so much conversation over the last, a couple of weeks where it's Wemby's out in the Himalayan mountains. He's working with monks. This guy is the coolest dude of all time. And I think the turn for a lot of fans has been really interesting because I see it online. I see people now being like, Wemby's kind of annoying, Okay, but this is just how America works, I think, and definitely how the internet works. And this is the most exposure that he's ever gotten. This is the most Victor Wembanyama most people have ever seen. And he's amazing. Everything he does is kind of incredible. And then he lost. I think that lends itself to this sort of stuff. I mean, the discourse is going to be the discourse, but I don't know how you hate on a guy that's this talented and you listen to his post-game stuff. It's really thoughtful. And he's far from the first player to get frustrated on the court and throw an elbow or something like that. So I just think all that stuff rings hollow. And I suggest people go outside and touch some grass. This dude is important.
He's amazing. He's incredible to watch. And I think even for his story arc here, if we're thinking like long-term career narrative, for him to lose in a series like this where they blew every game, I think how he bounces back from this will determine whether or not people treat him like a villain. If he bounces back and he's a world beater and he's amazing, I think he'll win people back over. But if he doesn't bounce back, then I think people will say, okay, well, maybe he wasn't that great after all. But the hate it comes from any point. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, people, they hate on him. Nikola Jokic, they hate on him. They were hating on Steph Curry. There were people who called it shooty hoops because he shot threes. They hated him.
They said Steph Curry ruined basketball because he shot three-pointers. So, yeah, I agree with you that, again, it happens to every single superstar in the NBA.
People did not like Michael Jordan at one point. I remember specifically growing up when People I knew bought David Robinson shoes
before he won the title
because they were against Michael Jordan. David Robinson shoes, center shoes. No one buys center shoes.
Yeah,
and they were buying them. I mean, I'm just saying, like, they're going to hate on everyone. I'm sure Shohei Ohtani has haters.
I mean, look, he has a lot of haters in Toronto. I'll tell you that. How dare he? How dare he? Anyways, we're talking about San Antonio because we just spent the last 30 minutes talking about the New York Knicks and how incredible of a championship run it was. We could talk about the Knicks for hours. We probably will talk about the Knicks until their parade, by the way. Zoran Mamdani said, Thursday, parade, it's happening. It's going to be absolutely wild. Between that and the World Cup, it's going to be an insane moment for New York. Anyways, even in this game, Wemby, I thought he had his moments of dominance, especially defensively. You know, the Spurs...
5 blocks very early.
Five blocks very early. The Knicks were 8 of 20 on layups in this game. Like, the absolute ability to wall off the paint, that is the Victor Wembanyama effect. And then in the end, man, like, their fourth quarter offense was absolutely abysmal. Yeah. And it comes down to what they've done basically every single game in this series, and it's a testament to what the Knicks do. We talked about the resilience of the Knicks, their ability to answer, their ability to stay calm, their Jalen Brunson's ability to stay composed in those moments. The Spurs didn't have any of that. They scored 18 points in the fourth quarter in this one, and De'Aaron Fox is the big story here. You know, before this game, Mitch Johnson says, "I'm going to give the ball to De'Aaron Fox again." And
he did.
He did.
It's like Tin Cup, you know. I'm just going to keep taking this shot and keep taking this shot and keep taking this shot until I get it, and they didn't get it. What did he wind up shooting for the game? Was it 3 of 14?
Let's see. So De'Aaron Fox for the game was 3 of 15. In that fourth quarter, let's see. De'Aaron Fox was 0 for 4 in that fourth quarter, 0 points, -5 in that fourth. I mean, look, since the conference finals, Dave, I saw this stat earlier. I can't remember who did it. He's averaging 13 points on 42% true shooting. 42% true shooting. That's Jamal Shed numbers. You know, and all respect to my guy Jamal Shed, but like De'Aaron Fox is like an all-star guard. He literally was an all-star this year. So
I do want to just and not to totally give him cover because he played, right? But he was dealing with pretty severe ankle injury, and playing through that is not easy. But I'm putting this on Mitch Johnson. If your guy doesn't have it, you've got to have the guts to be able to sit him down. And, you know, Dylan Harper had it, and there were too many possessions, I thought, down the stretch where he didn't touch the ball. I know he blew some layups late. Blue is kind of tough to say about a guy going up against it was OG Anunoby at the rim.
92-90, and Harper had a transition lay, and it fell just short. You know, like that probably was the series right there for them.
Right.
Well, On top of the million mistakes they made in Game 4 to blow a 29-point lead, and the back-to-the-back pass, whatever it was in Game 2 between so many young mistakes for this Spurs team, where you know, you were talking about the margin of victory for them. This was the Spurs led for 70% of the series. This was one of the closest NBA finals ever, and yet it finished in 5 games. I think that comes down to a lack of execution for San Antonio, and truthfully, this being a bad matchup. The Knicks were a bad matchup for the Spurs, and I say this as someone who picked the Spurs.
We picked the Spurs
at the start of the series, and I'm dead wrong in doing that, but it turned out that they were a very bad matchup for them.
I do think, like, you know, coming into the series, we all knew that Karl-Anthony Towns would be a potential matchup problem for Victor Wembanyama. Absolutely. We saw that in the first couple of games. He's strong enough to guard him. Jalen Brunson obviously is just going to do his thing. I think the thing that I was most surprised by was just how effective Brunson was when he attacked Wemby. You know, he was really good at when he had him in space, got an isolation, and would drive to the basket. He would make something happen out of that. In this game, he hit a couple shots around him and over him. The Knicks weren't playing scared with Wemby. You know, even though, I mean, he was blocking shots like crazy, they still attacked. I mean, you talked about, what were they, 8 for 20, you said? They, you know, rough shooting night, but they kept coming. And they wore him down. I mean, they were playing the long game with him, you know, hoping that he was going to be out of gas. the last 5 minutes of the game. And if they could just keep it close, they'd have a chance. And, 4 out of 5 games, that worked for them.
It did. It's when the Spurs will be back, and I know we did see a couple of comments in there, but I will acknowledge that it's really hard to return to this stage. And just because they're young doesn't confirm that they are going to. I mean, we just saw it with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where it's like none of this stuff is given,
No.
And when it comes to injuries, obviously Wemby has had his fair share of injury moments, even in this series, this season, excuse me. Fox was injured at some point in the playoffs as well. Like, none of this stuff is guaranteed, even if you are a young team. And we've actually seen this throughout NBA history. Like, people thought when Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden made it to the finals in 2012 that was going to be their moment. That was going to be the start of a new era for them. That didn't end up being the case.
OG Anunoby, right? He plays in doesn't play in a finals because he missed that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, he talked about this. I didn't realize it would be that hard to get back.
Yep.
Victor Wembanyama talked about this.
The same thing. Yep, absolutely.
Victor Wembanyama talked about it in post game. He said, first thing I'm thinking is, I just want to be back here, but we've got 100 games that we've got to play to get here. Yeah. And, you think about what you go through. An 82-game season is such a slog. I mean, how many guys get injured and are out? They're not playing in the playoffs because they have a season-ending injury.
The Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton,
right.
That's just it. Things change so quickly in the NBA. And while we can sit here and say Victor Wembanyama is going to be arguably the best player in the world for the next 10 years, and they have this young nucleus with Dylan Harper and all these guys, particularly Steph Castle and Dylan Harper, who are going to build alongside him, none of this stuff is guaranteed.
No.
And that brings me to the discussion of what do you think they do this summer? And we will have weeks to talk about this, but do you think they end up acknowledging the De'Aaron Fox stuff? I don't think they can trade Fox. Given he is at a low point in his value. He has 4 years left with $200 million. I don't think it's possible for them to trade him. So what do you do? You just bring the team back? Is that what you're thinking?
I think it's tricky because Dylan Harper needs to be in the starting lineup. Period. Mm-hmm. Right? This guy is a star, and he was their second best player in the playoffs, not just in the series. And he just needs more minutes, and he needs touches. Is he your point guard next year? I don't know, but I mean, I think we saw that you can play Fox, Harper, and Castle together, and maybe that's where they wind up. I think that's tough because you don't have the shooting out there like Champagnie. That's a spot that they need to upgrade, that 4-man spot. Vassell, I thought, he was pretty good in the playoffs.
Yeah, he had a good playoff run. Yeah. He
had a really good game 4. And for them to lose the Vassell game, I think was really tough to bounce back from. But, they've got some decisions to make. But frankly, it's a destination I think people are going to want to come to because of these young guys.
I don't know if you see this, but do you guys remember the Meta World Peace post-game press conference? This is kind of what Karl Anthony Towns is doing right now. He has all of the two-way guys hanging out with the Larry O'Brien trophy while he's doing the post-game. That is really cool. That's a really cool moment.
This Knicks team is fun, man. It's a lot of guys who are easy to root for. Mm-hmm. I think the NBA has mostly guys that are easy to root for, but this Knicks team as a unit is just fun. They've got all these cool players. Some of them are weird. Like Josh Hart. How does this guy start on a finals team? When you think about it.
Dude, he's one of the he is it's cliche because his name is literally Hart, but he is quite literally the heartbeat of this team in terms of energy and never giving up, and his ability to crash the offensive glass, push and transition. All of that stuff is so unique to what this Knicks team needs. Andrew is correct. We need to talk about the first ever double before we get
that's right. Respect the cup finally. Okay, we get a rematch of the NBA Cup final in the finals, and the Knicks pulled off the double. How about that?
Incredible.
And I haven't heard that one time out here from the NBA. I'm sure I hope I get a note about that. But how about the double? Hey, listen, this is kind of what, to me, it was the best case scenario if you were going to do some sort of an in-season tournament, that the teams that performed well in that tournament wound up performing well in the playoffs. And we're definitely next season going to say, hey, look, this might be an indicator for playoff success. There's one game we don't in the NBA, we don't get the single elimination game. And maybe being able to perform in that, like we just saw tonight, the Knicks treated this game, I think, like their own elimination game. They wanted to end it in game 5 because, listen, you get back to game 6, all of a sudden, with the way this series has gone, where it's nearly a coin flip, you don't want to go to a game 7 against a younger team.
Yeah.
At home.
By the way, the Knicks now 4-0 in closeout games. 3 of those 30+.
Sure. This one was not.
This one was not, but I mean, it didn't matter because Jalen Brunson carried them to a win. I want to just quickly on the Spurs, I wanted to bring up something because they're doing the post-game press conferences, and this is a funny quote that just got brought up. Devin Vassell said that Dylan Harper was upset about his playing time and role during the season. He said, I knew we all had talented players. I don't know if anybody knew he was this talented besides himself. He was upset with his playing time and different roles that he was in, but when we needed him, he stepped up most. So, I mean, to your point earlier about like how they are going to prioritize Dylan Harper, I think it's a valid question. One of the big reasons the Thunder lost James Harden was not just money stuff, but James feeling like he could end up being an incredible player somewhere else.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be an issue here with Dylan Harper. It's pretty obvious. I think the Spurs internally, from what I understand, see this guy as a potential like all-NBA first team guy. And judging by the way his rookie year went, especially this playoff run, I feel like they could even be underselling it a little bit. He may be a perennial all-NBA guy. It's early, so maybe we need to pump the brakes just a little bit. But I think one of the big tasks for this coaching staff and the organization this summer, get that Dylan Harper, Victor Wembanyama 2-man game going because
figure it out.
They don't connect in the way that your 2 best players really need to, especially when it's a guard and a big. So that's some stuff. There's a lot of stuff to me that's low hanging fruit that the Spurs are going to be able to pick up, and also let's not forget that their best players are in their 3rd year, 1st year, 2nd year. This is a team that I think, and again, it is hard to get back, but this is a team that's not quite ready for the moment that they were in under any other circumstances.
And look, it was clear that they weren't ready, and on the other side, they played a buzzsaw of a Knicks team that was 100% ready. And someone earlier in the comments mentioned it, but the Knicks' continuity showed in this. Like, they knew each other, they knew what playoff basketball meant, and honestly, they had this like 0-0 mentality. Yeah. And it showed every single game.
They had one of the most important things that a team needs, and it was trust. Trust in the roles that they were given, trust in their teammates, and it's hard to build that. And this is where the team that the Knicks have built, personality-wise, came through for them. They never got down on each other. Karl Anthony Towns fouled out and scored 2 points in this game, and was celebrated just like everybody else afterwards. Even when he was heading off the court, there wasn't a dejected look on anyone's face. It was just next man up, and they got the job done. Again, they are. This is a little bit of a different team, just built by veterans who, like I said, journeymen that have all 2nd, 3rd, or 4th team, and there was a certain kind of grind set that they had throughout the season and the playoffs that just gave them that little bit of an extra edge. And it's tough to run up against a team like that because their confidence comes from so much failure. Like, what are you going to do? Fail again? Right. There's no fear in that. Yeah.
I will say that's a big part of winning in general. Like the Thunder being able to win last year, we can talk about Halliburton's injury and everything, but like their ability to get to the finals and win in Game 7 of the finals, it was because they lost to the Spurs the year beforehand, and they learned how it feels like to lose. I think the Knicks felt that multiple times. Jalen Brunson has felt that multiple times. Karl Anthony Towns has felt that either in New York or in Minnesota multiple times, and you see a team that just basically understands what it takes to win now. This is also a little funny note. June 13th is a very funny day for OG Anunoby. I don't know if you know this. The Raptors won a championship on this same day. So OG Anunoby.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, OG Anunoby has won 2 championships on the same day, basically, June 13th.
That's pretty amazing. Also, June 13th, Jared Weiss's birthday. Happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday to Jared Weiss.
Yeah.
My guy, 50 minutes in, and we're giving birthday shout-outs to Jared
That's
Weiss.
right.
Let's go.
Yeah, we should probably get wrapped up here soon.
Sure.
But before, we're going to decompress, and we'll come back with a pod, me, you, and Zena, and talk about the season and definitely talk about this series a little bit. But before we go, I do want to take a second. I want to thank a bunch of people because, the show is kind of intense and it takes a lot of people to get it done. So I'm going to start with Es Baraheni, like one of my favorite people to collaborate with. Zena Keita, who is the hardest working person that I know that's doing sports media right now, flying across the country to do studio shows and still making time to be ready and prepared to do this show. Andrew Schlecht, who is, one of my favorite people, period. Is like one of my close friends. Alex Spears, who I think we got to find him a game show to host. Like he should maybe be hosting Jeopardy. This guy is so talented and fun to work with. It takes this whole team to put this show together all year. So I want to thank you guys for making it possible for me to be at the finals.
Absolutely.
You guys, I gave you extra work by being on the road and everybody picked that up. So I just wanted to publicly thank everybody because, this is important to me. I love the game of basketball. And to be able to talk about it is, it's a blessing. So thanks to you guys. And then to everybody who's watching or listening to the podcast, again, we don't get to do this if you're not along for the ride with us. So thank you guys. And it's a great time to go leave us a 5-star review, and subscribe and all those things. But Es, you got anything to close out the finals, man? Any last thoughts here?
I'm really happy for Knicks fans because, and not to make this about me, but it's really hard to win a championship, and from a fan perspective, you never really know when you're going to win again. I saw the Toronto Raptors win in 2019, and I told myself that they could never win again, and I would be completely satisfied. You know what I mean? And so I think for Knicks fans and from a fan perspective, enjoy this moment, relish in it, understand that it's few and far between, and yes, there are dynasties that we see in the NBA. Yes, there are championships and historic moments, but relish in the victory today. Enjoy the present, enjoy the now, because truthfully, it goes by quickly. So
and hopefully safely. And peacefully.
Of course.
Let's do that.
Goes without saying.
Without saying.
Of course. Yeah.
All right.
I will also say big shout out to you because you are, as folks know here, you are a guy who never misses a show. You are a guy who does this thing. It's called the NBA Daily for a reason. Should be called the NBA Davely because you basically are doing this every single day.
I appreciate you, buddy. It's fun. What a great job. I get to watch basketball and talk about it with my buddies. It's not a bad life. I'm pretty happy here. Shout out to The Athletic, a great place with the best sports journalists in the world. And by the way, I would love to thank every guest, but we have too many of them to thank. Every single person. This is the great thing about working at The Athletic, man. I work with some of my favorite writers in the world. I can't wait to read all this stuff tomorrow that everyone's writing and then to just watch them report on the fallout around the finals. So, guys, buckle up. I think we're going to have a crazy summer. We're jumping right into draft stuff. Es is doing interviews. We've got a draft live stream set up. So they're going to give me some time off, which is super nice. But we've got a lot of stuff coming. We're going to be hot and heavy in Summer League. And next year we're coming back, hopefully doubling down on what we've been doing. So good vibes and good times. All right, that's going to do it for the live stream, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For Es Baraheni, Zena Keita, Andrew Schlecht, Alex Spears, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.